What's up to all the connects out there? It's your boy Astro Solsin. Welcome back to the channel. In this episode, I wanted to go ahead and share some information on the spiritual eye, or the third eye, which is really the first eye, but most people would refer to it as the third eye, versus the serpent eye, or the snake eye. See, a lot of people, they don't realize that there's a difference between the two, and they mix them both up and they think that it's the same thing when it absolutely isn't. You know, on the website I go ahead and break it down more, but I'm going to break it down a little bit for you here now. Now, the first eye, or your spiritual eye, actually represents that connection with spirit. When you're able to see into the spiritual realm, you're actually able to see the spiritual phenomena taking place. And some people experience this spontaneously for a short amount of time, and they feel very blissful and things like that. However, the snake eye, or the serpent eye, can have you feeling the same way, but it will be doing a different thing. It's not that you're connecting with spirit, it's that you're actually connecting with your ego. And that's the thing too, a lot of people don't realize, is that your ego can bring about happiness. You know, somebody with a very egotistical, mindset, they can actually hurt and harm other people, and that can bring them joy. You get what I'm saying? So don't
So yeah, that's just wanted to talk on that for a minute, because it's so true. Like, the third eye, like, you can be in that ego perspective, still trying to, like, I guess, oversee things. Like, you can be like, kind of like, your mind is tricking you to believe that you're like happy and blissful. Like, I know a lot of people, they get into the love and light program, and they're just like, everything is good, everything, and they're just completely ignoring like the other side of the spectrum. Or in some cases, they're just on, the negative side of the spectrum, and they're, not really seeing like all aspects. They think that like a lot of the spirituality just has to do with like, ghosts and demons and stuff like that. And like, when you can see that, that's when your third eye is activated. But it's so much more. It's like overseeing like both sides of the coin at that. And then just want to talk about how, like, like I said, the mind can be tricky. Like, you can believe that you might be seeing like, in between the lines and behind the curtain and stuff. But that's the thing. It's like, you're believing that you are. So you're, perceiving all of this stuff as it's something, when it's really not that. And you're kind of like caught up in confusion. Because it can make you, the ego can try to make you feel blissful, and like, even in certain meditations, kind of like get you into a certain feeling, into certain thoughts, and you're thinking, yeah, like I'm, out of my mind, when really you're still dealing with the mind. And like, seeing through your spiritual eye, you'll start to see more than just like, like orbs and stuff like that. You'll really start to see like the true purpose and like the true meaning behind a conversation. When you hear the conversation, you'll start to see like the spiritual aspects.
And even on top of that, real quick, it's like when you have the first-hand experience, and like you actually have the real first-hand experience, where you'll know between the ego, and you've done enough observations and journaling and meditations to the point where, like, okay, you can distinguish between the ego and, your spirit. You'll know the difference between, whether it be, the third eye or the serpent eye, because with that experience of you actually, doing the meditations and all the different things, eventually you'll be able to sort out, the ego and the, your spiritual, higher self, basically, where you're able to truly see for things what they are and stuff. And you'll be able to see it within yourself too, because you've done the observations and the journalings to be like, okay, like I know internally that like this is just my ego, and then if I do this, I know this is my spirit, because it's something when you get connected to your your higher self, or like even your spiritual eye, your third eye, it's like you'll see the things for what they are in the sense. And yes, let's actually continue to keep going.
confuse happiness or feeling blissful, or even experiencing it is spiritual phenomenon, but it's not directly connected with spirit. It's directed with the ego, with the snake. A lot of people get into Kundalini, meditation, Kundalini yoga, and all this type of stuff. And, they want to have these snakes awaken within them. But they don't realize that the snake is not what you're trying to awaken. You're trying to awaken yourself. There should be no focus on snakes. You get what I'm saying? There's a reason why all throughout history, there's always been this battle against the snake. And if you look into all these different religions and fake spiritual teachings and fake spiritual philosophies, there's a lot of, references to the snake, or, they'll have the snake coiling up, your rod, your antenna, your spine. And what a snake does, and this is what people don't realize, what a snake does when it's going after its prey is it will wrap itself around its prey so that it can suffocate the prey, and the snake, will whisper to you, this is your own ego, that inner demon that will be speaking to you, having you think, I need to do this, I have to do that, and then you actually end up going down the wrong route because a snake has now severed you from your spiritual connection. It has suffocated you from, spirit, from that
Please, real quick. Alright, cool. Did I show?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. But yeah, I wanted to talk about that because that's definitely, it's so true. Like, that's what the snake does. Like, if you study nature, you'll see, like, a lot of the symbology that, like, society uses with certain animals and stuff. I mean, you can even tune into your own animal totems, but it's not about that. It's about, like, the fact, like, think about it, the Jungle Book, Mowgli, he's going, I think is his name, the little dude, the Jungle Book dude, he's going throughout his time, and then there's the snake, using his eyes and hypnotizing him, and he's like, what? And he's so focused on that, he, like, the snake starts to wrap around him, and in that case, his childlike state, his intuitive, self, he got out of that situation. But I mean, that's kind of like what's going on in society with a lot of, like, these, false spiritual gurus, and a lot of, like, this media and stuff. Like, it has you, like, hypnotized and in that beta wave, state, to where the point, like, you're no longer taking the steps, that you become stagnant, or sometimes you even backtrack and, just start having that spiritual, start tumbling, and you're not really breathing, that spiritual air. You're not really you're not full of life anymore. And that's why, children are so full of life, but through programming, through time, like, they get that, like, they start to drain their energy, basically.
The parents literally start to constrict their energy to the point where it's no longer they're even themselves anymore. The parents are programming the kids to be what they're programmed with by their predecessors, their ancestors, and stuff like that. So it's like you have to realize that you can't let the snake wrap around you and suffocate your spiritual connection. You have to be willing to be like, okay, I need to get out of that programming and reprogram yourself, so that way you can start to see the snake when it does come around in your vicinity and stuff. So because you don't want, if you are out in the jungle, right, say you were out, would you let a snake wrap around you and, like, eat you? I would hope not, but some people be like, yeah, but no, it's like you want to let something just kill you, so why let something kill your spiritual connection? And this can happen, and it happens all the time with people out there where they are, in society, a lot of people, like how you were saying, people are just letting the snake run rampant in their lives, and it's cutting everyone off from truly, wanting to connect with people. Because deep down inside everybody wants to connect, but because people are so hypnotized by this ego and all this physicality and all these distractions and stuff, it's like they can't see the true picture because they're too busy dealing with the temptations and the illusions and stuff like that. But shall we continue?
Yes, we shall.
Let's back to the main video.
True, prana, that true chi energy, that spiritual chi energy, it has cut you off from that. So you're not actually getting what you think is your spiritual eye open. You're actually getting your serpent eye open. You see, when we go back to Egypt, and I talked about this in the past video, when we go back to Egypt, a lot of people, they want to look at Egypt like, oh, Egypt was this great place, they were spiritually in tune. Egypt was ran by demons. Now, there is in the same area, the same region, before it was taken over, before the snake slithered its way in there and wrapped itself around, the true Pharaoh, it actually was a good place. But then eventually it turned into kind of like a society that we have today, except for back in those days, it was a lot more aggressive, a lot more brutal. They had slaves. How do you think they built all of those statues and everything? And the statues represent the ego. First of all, if you haven't figured that out already, something's wrong with you. But the statues represent the ego. Why were they collecting all the gold? Why were they trying to get all the rubies, all of the crystals, all of the metals? Because the ego wants all that stuff. The ego wants, a statue made of it. The ego wants a big pyramid, and all this type of stuff. And they had slaves built these things for them. And of course, there was different technologies and things back then that a lot of people don't recognize. But these people were working with demons. That's why they would have the snake coming out of the pharaohs where your spiritual eye is supposed to be. The snake has penetrated the spiritual eye. It slithered its way up from your spine, from the root. Your people are like, you have to awaken the snake from your root chakra, the lowest chakra. You're trying to bring that energy, that snake from your lowest chakra and bring it up to your highest chakras and have it penetrated. You see, and then you're seeing things through the eye of the snake. When you look at the back of the dollar bill and you see the eye on top of the pyramid, what do you think that represents? Do you think that represents your spiritual eye or the serpent eye? You can take your own guess on that, but I mean, I'm giving you all the codes, and I've been giving them to you guys for a while now. But yeah, there is a lot of things that you can learn from Egypt, don't get me wrong, because they stole a lot of things from past. People get into like Kemet was before Egypt and all this type of stuff. I don't know if that was the name, but there was actually, different people there. You could tell if you look at different paintings and things and different drawings and stuff that are in Egypt currently, or different artifacts that they've taken from it. It had a lot of different mixed cultures there. How do you think all of those different people got there? Because they were brought in as slaves. You see, you got to really think. You got to really use your critical thinking and really use, just your common sense, because a lot of people, don't have common sense. It's not common anymore. A lot of people, they just get what's given to them, and they just take it in because they're not really awake yet. They're not really operating on a true, spiritual path. They're just taking what everybody's giving them, and they're not really thinking. You got to think sometimes. We're seeing the same obelisk we seen in Egypt here in America. You see, just think about this stuff. Really, you can do your homework and research and look at what everybody else is telling you, but when you start to connect the dots, you'll realize like, something's going on here. This doesn't look right. They had slaves. They got all these statues. They were collecting all of the gold and all this type of stuff. If you think that's spiritual, then you don't know what spiritual is. You see? But anyway, that's what a lot of people don't realize, is that your spiritual eye, it will grant you access to the spiritual realm, grant you access to your creator, to have your spiritual talks. You get what I'm saying? Where you can directly speak with spirit. Then you'll be able to see all of the spiritual stuff going on throughout the grids here in this matrix. And that's what you're trying to, pretty much focus on and get to, is that connection. And then you'll get granted access to that. But you can be granted an illusion from, the snake, from the serpent. And you'll think.
Yeah, that's like so true. This is something that like we were talking with the Connects about too not too long ago, is that like a lot of people think astral projection, lucid dreaming and stuff like that is spiritual, but don't understand like the ego can still be involved in that kind of stuff, like energy work and stuff like that, basically magic. I mean, that doesn't necessarily make you spiritual if you're not really like in tune with your connection, like doing that stuff. Like it's like you'll start to realize like there's a purpose for this kind of stuff. And then some people think that's like where spirituality is at. It is in the astral realms and everything. But there's a reason why every time you're done dreaming and every time you're done meditating and astral projecting, you come back to this reality. Like there's a purpose for you here. Like, and I think a lot of people, they recognize that, and that's why they start to go on this path, because they want to know more. They see like through the lies, and like they feel that calling, that higher calling for themselves. But that's the thing, they just like start watching people blindly. And I can say this from experience for sure. I started off like, I'm not even gonna name the different YouTubers, just like taking in all that stuff, like, yeah, Egypt, like, yeah, my third eye, I'm gonna open it like in 5 minutes and stuff like that. And I really like truly believed too in a lot of this stuff. Like I was just like, and it's funny too, because when I look back, I see like how spirit was still calling, like, no, like this direction, come on, not that way, even though all of it played a part on my path, all of it taught me something. But I did have to start using common sense. I was like, wait a minute, like that's what kind of broke me out of like original religion in the first place, was like, wait a minute, how is it like, I'm supposed to be following these commandments, but the person that wrote these commandments are a different religion. Okay, let me study that religion. Oh, and then I started seeing all the holes in that religion. And then I started to see, well, what about Buddha? He says some awesome stuff. And then, come to find out, Buddha was just a man just like us. He made mistakes. He tried to fast off of 1 grain of rice for I don't know how long, ended up starving himself, and found out, oh, I shouldn't be doing that. That's out of balance. It's like we have to be that person. We have to be the one, to write his story, his story. Like, this is our story. This is our life, and we should be learning from our own experiences. And that's how any of these prophets really went off anyway. And that's what kind of broke me off from all of these people and everything. I was like, I want to know, like, I want to have that connection so strong within myself, like, that I know where to go. Like, I know what this message means, and then I can kind of share that with others to help them find that within themselves. And they can, like, start to experience things from themselves. Because, like, if you're not experiencing, like, for yourself, then what are you really doing? You're just kind of following, But yeah.
That is very true. Shall we continue with it?
Let's shall.
Shall we or continue? All right, it's back.
Think that you are seeing all this phenomenon, but it's really illusions. They're really putting illusions into your subconscious mind, and you believe that you're seeing all this spiritual stuff, but really that's just feeding all into your ego. And then you start going down that egotistical route and you don't even realize it. These are when we go into those LLAs, people that they are working for this evil system and they don't even know it. They might even think they're spiritual and stuff, and they don't realize that they're the furthest from it. There's a lot of people, and some of you may have already noticed this, there's a lot of people in the so-called spiritual communities and, in all these different other conscious and all this type of stuff that aren't actually spiritual. You see, these people are the furthest from it. They're worse than some of the people that are asleep. They're worse than some of the sheep, some of the robots. You get what I'm saying? The zombies. And people don't realize that, but you got to start waking up to it. You got to realize that sometimes, these demons and stuff, these snakes and everything, they will try to make you happy through, physical matter, try to give you things like gold and the rubies and the diamonds and statues, and people don't realize that's all feeding into the ego, and there's sacrifices that you have to make for that snake entity, and there's different levels to it. The people at the top levels, they're sacrificing real humans. They're spilling blood, and all sorts of stuff. Then there's different types of sacrifice, because a sacrifice doesn't just have to be, you actually slaughtering something. A sacrifice could be, I'm going to give up this in order to give that energy to this snake entity, to this demon, so that I get something in return. So you got to start waking up and start realizing, like, not everything out here is what it seems. There's a lot of people, and I'm not just putting down like Egypt. This is all over. You go into Buddhism, and then you see Buddha, sitting underneath the tree, but then he has, the serpents above him, and he's sitting in the serpent's lap, in the belly of the beast. You get what I'm saying? He's sitting there, and you guys are looking at it like, oh, Buddha this, Buddha that. It's like, why does Buddha need so many different statues? You see, you really got to wake up. You got to connect the dots and see what's going on here. But that's pretty much it for this video. I just want to wake you guys up a little bit that are asleep. Of course, there's more information at reprogramthematrix.com. I'll have a link in the description. Peace in and out with love, my highest vibrations, and my gratitude.
It's like a bunch of orbs. Oh no.
But
yeah.
it's the main camera. Of course, but anyways, other than that, but it's true, a lot of these things out here, like the snake can make you believe in a lot of things, but when you start to have your real experiences and through your observations and true observation, and you get past the barriers of the mind and like you're actually in tune with the spirit, you'll see the stuff for what it is, and you'll see exactly what he's saying. It's like, and this stuff takes patience and stuff, and it takes time to be able to truly see, with your third eye. I said third. I was like third. But it's like these people, they're so tuned into all these things, they're distracted, but like that's where you got to make sure that you make your own sacrifices. I'm not saying to the snake or anything like that. I'm saying, sacrifice to your spirit, where you're taking the time to, have that time with, to get your spiritual connection, to do your practices and things, so that way you can see, because you don't want to end up like these people, because misery loves company, and it's not a good place to be where these people are at in your life. You don't want to end up where some of these people have ended up in their lives, and down the line these people will regret it, like whether they like it or not, because deep down, if that being has a spirit within them, because deep down inside, no matter what, like that person will regret the things that they do, because everybody wants to be loved. Anybody that has a spirit within them, and if they're dealing with their ego deep down inside themselves, past the mind, past the physicality and the mentality and stuff, deep down inside your your spiritual higher self, everyone desires that love and that connection. And that's where even like finding RTM and stuff like that, if you go check out RTM and stuff like that, you'll see how there's a lot of great information on there, and then also there's a lot of like-minded people, and there's a lot of great things to even see from that as well. But it's like, stay tuned in, stay connected.
Stay connected to that true connection, because then you'll start to, the same spirit within us is the same spirit within you, and maybe that's why you're drawn to these type of videos. That's why resonate with us so well, is because your spirit's calling. It's calling to be with its spirit. Coming back to the whole, and that's what Astro was saying. It's not about the root chakra. It's about the heart, because that's the center of it all, the center of the maze. No, but seriously, it's like that's that overseeing. You're done dwelling in different polarities and staying in there, but at this time you're ready to really come into balance and really navigate this world, navigate this reality, because when you're in tune with the illusions, you're just gonna be caught in the dead ends. Like, you're gonna just constantly find yourself
or searching
lost.
Searching for one experience to another, where it's like you're never satisfied with what you have. But when you're with spirit, you find that satisfaction, because it's that contentness, it's that place within yourself, because they say home is where the heart is at. So if you get to your heart, where the home is at, and you get to that space within yourself, you're gonna be like, wow, like this is something where I truly feel it within inside myself. And it's like, okay, like I can feel that within you, because you'll feel it first-handedly, and you'll be happy, because then you'll be humbled too along that path, because you're like, okay, I have the things that I need in my life. You're balanced out. You'll find that contentness within you, I guarantee you, if you put in the work and you just be patient with it.
So true. So yeah.
But with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and let's see. Oh.
Well, I guess we don't need them anymore, right?
Not anymore. Other than that, I just want to say our gratitude for watching, and stay tuned for all the other videos as well. And have a great night, or good day, or great present moment.